Hey there, Russ here. Welcome back to the shop. All right, if you remember the other day, I was talking about this for a second, and I told you a piece of leather and some wood would make actually a pretty cool hinge. So I've been playing with that. Let me show you what I found and the do's and the don'ts that I found out so far about making them. They're easy to make. Here you go, check it out. I made this hinge here out of 4 pieces of wood and 2 pieces of leather. And I have to tell you, this is one of the nicest hinges I've ever had. The thing is, it's sturdy. It doesn't wobble around or damage or get bent. It stays open when you open it. And it closes perfectly every time. Right exactly where it's supposed to be. So, they actually make pretty good hinges. The only thing you have to watch out is 2 things. You want to make sure you keep just a little bit of a gap between these pieces when you glue them on. And you want to pay attention to this angle between these pieces. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So here I have a couple of different hinges that I'm going to make. I have my piece of leather. And this leather is actually a very thin piece. I measure it with a micrometer, and it measures out to right at 3/64. I don't know what pound it is, type of leather, but I bought this leather. I've got a whole bag of it. Bought it at a craft store, a Hobby Lobby or Michael's, or I don't remember where, been several years ago. And I've been kind of piecing it out there. It's all used leather that was just kind of all cut in oddball shapes and in a baggie that cost like $5 for the whole bag. And I've been piecemealing them out, as you know, little by little, doing different things with the leather. So this is my latest idea about it. And it actually makes a pretty good hinge, I think. Something. Anyway, you take your piece of leather, take your 2 pieces. The 2 things you want to watch out for is when you cut this, I cut this at a 60-degree angle. And all I did was I take my miter saw. If this was my fence on my miter saw, I just took my piece, laid it on the fence. Then I moved my fence, or my angle of my miter saw over to 60 degrees. If I turn it all the way to the right, I can get 60 degrees. And I cut this at 60 degrees right on the miter saw. Then I take the second one, I put it in there, and I do the second one the same way. When you get done, it's going to have a nice sharp edge. Just kind of sand that down on a piece of sandpaper to round it over just a little bit, because you don't want that sharpness to be working on that leather, or it'll probably cut through sooner or later. So I do round these over. And when you glue them to the leather, make sure you give yourself about somewhere between a 32nd and a 16th of an inch gap. After you've made it a couple times, you'll kind of get a feel for how big a gap you want to put in it. And that gap will help you determine that when you open it and it reaches its final tension, that it'll be pulling on the leather a little bit, but not too much. If you get them too close together, when I made this, I did get these too close together. I had to go in here and chisel that back a little bit. So this is just slightly more of a gap than I probably could have in there. But the gap isn't critical. It's still, you'll have a sturdy hinge. It's still a very sturdy hinge. But then after you've round them off and you glue them down onto this piece, just make sure you have that angle straight and you have a straight edge on one edge or the other to keep these 2 pieces parallel to each other. Glue it down, let it dry, and then you'll have a hinge. So, and they're really easy to make. You can make these pieces up in just 5 minutes, glue them down, and then just walk away. And later on, I give them a good 12 hours to set up, because this is soaking into leather and into wood, and you want that glue to get as dry as you can get it. Then you can bend it back this way, and clean out any glue you got in here, break it off and clean it all out. I just use a wood glue when I do this so that I can break it away easily. Then I take my razor knife and I cut around it to make it nice and flush. But not only can you make a hinge like this, But you can also make your hinges like this. Now this hinge and these hinges, the grain is running this way. When I made this hinge, and I made it, that one, for this box. And that, my grain is running this way. So when I cut this on the table saw. And again, I got my 60 degrees so that when these fold over, it goes past 90 degrees just a little bit so that the lid will be leaning back. So now this one, I did get that gap a little wide, but I don't think that's going to hurt anything. But you know what's cool about this? By doing it this way is I can either cut these into a specific width, like 1.5 inch width, and use them, and I can make 4 hinges out of this. Or I can take this, take a box like this, cut my lid loose, and then glue this on here, and I have the makings of what I would consider to be a piano hinge. So this would be a great substitute for a piano hinge also. And why not? So if you make up your pieces ahead of time, like this, the other thing you can do is that if you make it and put it on the long piece, like I did here, I can come back here and cut this all out and make an ornate saddle hinge of some kind if I wanted to, and have a really nice looking hinge. Paint it black, and it would make a nice looking hinge on any cabinet door or on a box without any problem. So the sky's the limit of what you can do with it once you do this. And they're so easy to make and install. You just take your 2 pieces, and like on this hinge, I just clamped them together. Then I set my hinge down on there, marked it, screwed it down with a little bit of glue under it, and the glue is optional. And now those hinges are held in place without any problem. So, and if it ever goes bad, I can take the screw out, pop the hinge off, fix it, and put it back on there, or replace them with something else if I want. So it makes it easy to replace your hinges too when you get done. On this one, I could just put screws all the way across on both of them when it's on there, and then you have this great little long, wide piano style hinge on there made out of leather. So leather and wood. I've never done it before. I've not seen anybody do this before, in fact, on the internet. If you know anybody on YouTube that has done or has a video on this, let me know. But I've not seen it. But actually, it's not a bad hinge, and it's easy peasy to make. So if you're like me, I love making hinges. You should know that. I've got a rule in my shop that I try to never use a store-bought hinge anymore. I try to always make my hinges instead myself. And this just gives me another one in my arsenal of different types of hinges that I can make for different applications. Real easy. So, if you're going to make some of these, let me know. I'd love to see your pictures of yours. Any thoughts or comments, leave them down below in the comments. If you learned something here or you like this video, hit that like button. It lets me know I'm doing something right. Most importantly, though, please come back again because I'm nowhere near done. Thanks, and we'll see you guys again very soon.